Not many 80-year-olds celebrate a birthday this way, but the Queen was out and about on her special day. By tradition, tomorrow is the official monarch's birthday, so she usually marks her April birth date in private, with family and, of course, her famous dogs. But this year, she responded to public demand and came out smiling.
Well, blimey, she's 80. She looks marvellous. She really does.
It was a good rehearsal for more official events taking place this week. So what is it about this animal-loving monarch that continues to fascinate? There are plenty of people who'll criticize the institution she represents, but very few who have a bad word about the Queen personally or about the way she does her job. She was born into a life of extraordinary privilege and wealth, but from early on, Princess Elizabeth was taught that the job always came first. On her 21st birthday, heir to the throne, she made a defining radio address to her future subjects. It was broadcast throughout the realm.
I declare before you all that my whole life, whether it be long or short, shall be devoted to your service and to the service of our great imperial family to which we all belong.
I've always thought that speech she gave when she was 21 was the most moving and wonderful speech for a young person.
That's very nice. Countess Mountbatten is the Queen's cousin and friend.
To be able to commit yourself to doing your best for your people, however long you lived, and not only that, but to carry it out all her life, is something immensely moving and touching and wonderful. I admire her tremendously for having done that.
She is a kind of act of defiance at time.
Historian David Starkey is a leading expert on Britain's royal family.
The ruling fact of the House of Windsor is duty, or was duty. And what duty meant was the subordination of the private self to the public person. And Elizabeth is the complete exemplar of that.
It wasn't long before she had the chance to prove her commitment to duty. In 1953, following the death of her father, she was crowned Queen. It was a grand spectacle.
I solemnly promise so to do.
The pretty young Queen was an international media star, the Princess Diana of her day. The ceremony was one of the first events ever to be broadcast around the world.
The Queen is her own standard. She set the bar of what a queen should be.
Canadian newspaper columnist Michael Valpe remembers seeing the coronation on a newfangled invention.
People bought television sets in Canada. I know my family did. In order to be able to watch it, the country came to a halt. I mean, we were a very white, Anglo-Saxon, royalist country in 1953. So, you know, it was an engrossing event.
Queen Elizabeth saw one of her main duties as representing the Commonwealth.
A crisp and sunny day in Ottawa as the Queen and Prince Philip arrive for the first North American visit by a reigning...
4 years after the coronation, in 1957, she left her 2 young children behind and made an historic visit to Canada. She cheerfully greeted Canadians who flocked to see their Queen. She gave her first live address on TV, watched by 1/3 of the nation, and announced another first.
Tomorrow afternoon, I shall open the 23rd Parliament here in the nation's capital. It will be the first time that the Canadian Parliament has been opened by the Sovereign in person.
A historic day for Canada.
And I'm very much looking forward to performing this duty.
Back then, this country was still the Dominion of Canada, a loyal part of the British Empire. And Elizabeth was ceremonial queen of it all.
This is for all of us a moment to remember.
But a new decade, the 1960s, was about to turn everything upside down.
The 60s are an extraordinary sea change. Before the late 1960s, the family was central. Duty, this is to British life, duty was central. Stiff upper lip was central. Keeping your emotions under control was central, and the monarchy symbolised all of those things. And finally, the monarchy itself was protected by this extraordinary deference. And then suddenly in the 60s, it all came apart.
The deference began to disappear amid rapid social and political change. The sun was setting on the British Empire, but the royal family seemed frozen in time. When the Queen visited Quebec in 1964, she was met by boos, not cheers. But ever the dutiful monarch, she just got on with the job.
They don't boo her very often. The Quebec moment was really very isolated. And she's normally quite insulated too. The Queen does not enter into an emotional relationship with an audience. On the contrary, there's a deliberate distancing. It's oh so British little waving of flags and quite polite cheering, and her little wave back. And I think that will enable you to deal with either a hostile crowd or a friendly crowd. You just do the same fixed smile.
Unlike other celebrities, the Queen refused to do interviews and never passed judgment on topical issues. But she did make this concession. In 1969, she permitted cameras to peek into the royal world. 23 million people watched the result, this unique BBC documentary. It was a turning point. Instead of satisfying public curiosity, these scenes created an insatiable appetite for more, demystifying the monarchy.
This is my one. Yours? No, Philip, look, I found this the other day. You? See, I put this card in.
Yes.
I pressed.
Soon, the unimaginable happened. People started laughing at the Queen.
And look, my picture comes out. But where was the flash?
What will they think of next?
Most of the humor has been good-natured, even affectionate. But like this popular British comedy, Spitting Image, it reflects a woman who is slightly horsey, not very clever, who puts her job before everything, including family.
They arrived in London on November the 17th, 3 days too late for Prince Charles's 3rd birthday.
Her children have complained that she was remote and unaffectionate. This is a woman who read government papers, not bedtime stories. Later on, as 3 of her 4 children got married and divorced, people wondered aloud about her mothering skills.
Her strengths are her weaknesses. The stiff upper lip, put the other way round, is alleged to have made her a pretty intolerable parent. You know, those famous greetings of Prince Charles, he sort of stands there, and practically when Mummy comes down, he goes, that extraordinary stiffness. But of course that has also been a strength. It's carried her through. The batterings and the horrors of Anne, of Charles, of Andrew. I mean, imagine having Fergie in your family and surviving. And she survived. And I suppose, as I said, this stiff upper lip, this eye on the pole star of duty, means that you don't notice the horror over the breakfast table.
It's not often that she's put a foot wrong, but in 1997, the Queen came dangerously close to ignoring the public horror over the death of her daughter-in-law, Diana, Princess of Wales. When Diana died in a car accident in Paris, the Queen stayed out of sight in Scotland. At royal palaces, her subjects demanded a royal response. Her popularity hit an unprecedented new low. Eventually, she did return to London, and went through the required motions.
So what I say to you now, as your queen and as a grandmother, I say from my heart. First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being.
The Queen remained her old stoic self, but her advisors got the message.
The death of Diana was a shock to the royal family. They got public opinion wrong, and without public opinion, the monarchy's dead.
The palace hired Sir Robert Worcester to do private polling for the royal family through his company Maury.
We ask what they like and dislike, and what they like about her is the common touch. What they dislike about her, not fair to say dislike about her, but they do believe that she's out of touch.
She may be out of touch, but all was forgiven at celebrations for the Queen's Golden Jubilee. Just 5 years after Diana's death, over 1 million people came from all over the United Kingdom, Canada, and the rest of the Commonwealth to pay tribute to 50 dutiful years on the throne and to the woman herself.
86% say they're satisfied with her performance as the Queen. 8% say they're dissatisfied. So that's nearly 11 to 1 that are satisfied with her performance. Any politician I've ever heard of would give their arm for those kind of ratings. She seems to sparkle whenever she's talking to people. She's always alert, always seemed to be listening, and she must have heard the same story 1,000 times, but she's continually interested, nodding and going along with whatever's being said.
There must be some moments when you feel, oh my goodness, you know, I rather wish I didn't have to do this or that, but it never shows, and she never doesn't do something that she should do unless she's really ill, which is very, very rare. And I think she just accepts that that is her life, and that she wants to do the very best to fulfill it.
Doing the very best has meant meeting millions of people, hosting thousands of official events, and making hundreds of overseas visits during her reign. She's been to Canada 23 times, more than anywhere else. Support for the monarchy here may have declined over the years, but you'd never know it when the Queen drops in.
One of the great moments of my journalistic career is having been in the hockey arena in Vancouver when Wayne Gretzky brought her out on center ice to drop the opening puck. Well, she looked like, as she bent over to drop the puck, as someone said that she was dropping a biscuit for one of her corgis. The puck she did drop, and the crowd, I've never heard a Canadian crowd cheer like this. I mean, they lifted the roof off the place. It was just a great moment. And there is affection for her that goes beyond simply that she's an international celebrity. We're going to have the monarchy here for a long time.
But how much longer will the Queen remain Queen? Most 80-year-olds have long given up the hectic schedule she keeps. So will the Queen retire, abdicate, and let her 57-year-old son and heir, Prince Charles, take over?
I'm fairly sure that the Queen regards this as a job for life, and it's not something that you can retire from as you and I can, which I think makes it much more difficult. I think she thinks she's there, she has the duty to go on just as long as she is able to fulfill the role of being our Queen.
This week, her official birthday celebrations show a queen in the golden years of her reign who's barely slowing down.
She's an amazing person. Amazing person, and somebody who, if she wasn't doing the job she does, one would want her as a best friend, because she's a lovely lady with great sense of humour.
The Queen's legacy is simply that she has survived, that the British monarchy has survived, that it has sailed through this period of extraordinary change, that it's still there, that it seems pretty much as secure in popular affection as it was at the beginning of her reign, that republicanism is still an utterly minor phenomenon.
Those close to the Queen believe she may have been far happier out of the limelight, living in the country, surrounded by dogs and horses. Instead, she has accepted her fate, does her duty, and never complains. Happy birthday, Your Majesty. Anne Macmillan, CBC News, London.